Dude, and it literally, like, pisses me off when people are like, she's not the face of the league.
Who would be?
What?
Sabrina? No.
Sophie Cunningham just said what every Caitlin Clark fan has been thinking, and people are losing their minds about it. A few days ago, Sophie launched her new podcast. She could have talked about normal basketball stuff. Instead, she went straight for the most controversial topic in women's sports. It literally pisses me off when people say, she's not the face of the league. Who would be? Sabrina? No. She was talking about Caitlin Clark, and she didn't stop there. Sophie basically called anyone who disagrees dumb as F on her very first episode. Now here's why this matters so much. Sophie isn't some random player trying to get attention. She's Caitlin's teammate. She sees her every day. She watches how fans react when Caitlin plays versus when she doesn't. And she just told the whole world what she really thinks about all the debate around Caitlin Clark.
No, there's really good, well-known people in our league. I'm not discrediting them. Like, we have a lot of badasses in our league.
Yeah.
Like, hell yeah to that. I'm all for that. But when people try to argue that she's not the face of our league, or if our league would be where we're at without her, you're dumb as shit.
Yeah.
You're literally dumb as shit.
You guys played at Iowa.
This is the moment Caitlin Clark fans have been waiting over a year for. Finally, someone who actually knows what they're talking about said it out loud. Let me break down how crazy this whole thing has been. Sophie Cunningham used to be just another solid WNBA player. Most casual fans had never heard of her. She could play defense, hit some shots, but she wasn't famous or anything. Then June 17th happened. Caitlin Clark was getting beat up by the Connecticut Sun players. Their refs weren't calling fouls. So Sophie stepped in. She laid a hard foul on one of the Sun players and let everyone know, you mess with Caitlin, you mess with me. That moment went completely viral.
Sophie Cunningham, who is become the summer it girl, the blonde bombshell, the bombastic battler. Yeah, Caitlin Clark's wing woman in the WNBA. She is standing up once again for Caitlin Clark.
Sophie gained over 1 million followers basically overnight. Her jersey sold out everywhere. Suddenly, everyone knew her as Caitlin's bodyguard. Now, just over a month later, she's got her own podcast. And she used episode 1 to defend Caitlin again, this time with words instead of a hard foul. Think about that for a second. Sophie went from unknown role player to household name just by having Caitlin Clark's back. And fans absolutely love her for it. Before I show you how big this is getting, hit that like button if you think Sophie's right about Caitlin being the face of the league. And make sure you subscribe because this story is just getting started. Here's what Sophie knows that apparently half the WNBA still doesn't get. The numbers around Caitlin Clark are insane. When Sophie said people who don't think Caitlin is the face of the league are dumb as F, she wasn't just being emotional. She was stating facts. Let me show you what I mean.
And this time, it's a little ridiculous that she even has to. I mean, think about this. Caitlin Clark is, of course, the face of the WNBA.
When Caitlin Clark plays, Indiana Fever games get over 1.2 million viewers on average. When she doesn't play, those same big matchups drop to around 400,000 viewers. That's not a small dip, that's a complete crash. 67% of the audience just disappears when one player sits out. Can you think of any other athlete in any sport who personally brings that much of their league's audience? I can't. And here's more proof of how crazy this is. This season, Fever games are averaging 1.26 million viewers. But all the other WNBA games, they're only getting 549,000 viewers on average. So even with all the growth in women's basketball, Caitlin's games are still getting more than double the audience of everyone else. The networks know this too.
Wine and moan. We can't have a straight white girl. What about all the sisters and the white lesbians that came before to build show of a league? Well, that's why it's show of a league. Because the sisters and the straight white girls and the lesbian white girls that tried to build it before them, guess what? It don't work.
NBA TV's WNBA viewership is up 58% this year. CBS is up 5.5%. But they all know where their biggest numbers come from, whenever Caitlin Clark is playing. Want to see how important she really is? When Caitlin got injured earlier this season, national TV viewership dropped 55%. That's more than half the audience gone because one player couldn't play. The Fever's numbers went from 1.81 million viewers down to 847,000. One injury, and boom, nearly 1 million viewers just stopped watching. But Sophie's podcast wasn't just about defending Caitlin's TV numbers. She was addressing something specific that's been bugging fans all season. When she said Sabrina, no, she was talking about Sabrina Ionescu. Some people have been trying to argue that other players deserve to be called the face of the league instead of Caitlin. Sophie just shut that down completely.
Yeah, I think it's a balance you have to try to figure out, This fan base is new to a lot of us, and they're the best fan base in the whole W, and so they're always going to be here. Even if we're not playing at home, regardless of where we're at, we have a ton of fans everywhere we go.
Here's what makes Sophie so smart about this. She didn't just randomly decide to defend Caitlin Clark. She planned this perfectly. Sophie launched her podcast with Colin Cowherd's company, The Volume. These guys know how to make content go viral. Then she used her very first episode to say the most controversial thing possible in women's basketball. That's not an accident. That's someone who gets how modern media works. Colin Cowherd built his whole career on saying things that get people talking. Sophie just learned from the best. She knew that talking about normal basketball stuff wouldn't get attention. But defending Caitlin Clark like this, that was guaranteed to blow up. And it did blow up. The clip is going viral everywhere. Major sports accounts are sharing it. ESPN is playing the audio. Even NBA fans are talking about it. People who already knew Sophie as Caitlin's bodyguard on the court now know her as her biggest defender off the court too. Sophie turned one podcast episode into national news. That's pretty impressive.
I know the talks that Phoenix had in the locker room of no, we're gonna prove her, we're gonna show her what the W really is. You know what I mean? And I get it to a certain extent. And every rookie coming into the league, that's how you're gonna treat them. But There's just more for her.
But here's what really backs up everything Sophie said. The attendance numbers are absolutely wild. Last year, the Indiana Fever averaged 4,067 fans per game. This year, over 17,000 fans per game. That's more than 4 times as many people showing up. No other team in the league even doubled their attendance. And it's not just home games. When Caitlin comes to your city, your arena sells out. They set a WNBA regular season attendance record in Washington, and over 20,000 people showed up just to watch her play. Teams are literally moving games to NBA arenas because their normal venues can't fit all the people who want to see Caitlin Clark. Think about that. Professional sports teams are changing their entire game plan. Different venues, higher prices, more security, all because one player is coming to town. That doesn't happen in sports unless you're talking about LeBron James or maybe Taylor Swift.
So it's her second year. And now being on her team and sing it, I'm what are people doing? Actually it's just too much. And it's just, I'm over it. And if I'm saying it's too much, then it's probably too much.
No, that's so fair.
That's fair.
But what happened next is what separates this from just another viral sports moment. Sophie didn't just defend Caitlin Clark. She accidentally exposed the entire power structure of women's basketball criticism. Because here's what's fascinating about the response to her comments. You can see exactly who's been threatened by Caitlin's success based on how they reacted to Sophie's defense. The fans, they went absolutely crazy with support. Sophie's mentions were flooded with people thanking her, buying her jersey, and calling her a hero. But some of the establishment voices, they immediately started attacking her for being divisive or disrespectful to other players, which tells you everything you need to know about whose interests they're really protecting. Sophie also revealed something else that's been obvious to anyone paying attention but rarely gets said out loud. When she talked about conversations in the Phoenix locker room about proving Caitlin wrong and showing her what the W really is, she exposed the weird competitive dynamic that's been poisoning the league's relationship with its own success story. Here's where Sophie's latest moment builds on something much bigger than just a viral podcast clip. Remember, she already gained nearly 600,000 TikTok followers and had her jersey sell out completely after her physical defense of Caitlin Clark back in June. That was the moment that transformed her from a solid role player into a household name among basketball fans. Now, with her podcast comments just a few days old, we're seeing the next phase of her transformation. She's not just Caitlin's physical protector on the court, she's become her most vocal defender off it too. The podcast launch with The Volume positions her for long-term media success, and her willingness to make controversial statements defending Caitlin shows she understands exactly what her brand is and how to leverage it. The most telling part isn't just the immediate reaction to her comments, it's how quickly she went from unknown role player to someone whose every statement about Caitlin Clark becomes national news. That kind of platform doesn't happen by accident. But the most telling response came from the people who were criticizing Sophie. Almost immediately, we started seeing pushback, claiming she was being problematic or dividing the league. A petition actually started circulating to get Sophie kicked out of the WNBA for defending her teammate.
One of the biggest stars the WNBA's ever
Who's that?
had. Her name rhymes with Schmaitland.
Hurtland?
Yeah. What has that been like, seeing her not only kind of transform a league, but also just be like,
no,
is that fair to say? Okay.
Not even just the league, but
The
women's
sport?
basketball as a whole around the world.
So think about how backwards that is. People wanting to punish a player for standing up for the person who's single-handedly growing their sport. This is where Sophie's defense of Caitlin Clark becomes about much more than just basketball opinions. We're talking about real money here, and the numbers are staggering. The same economist who calculated that Caitlin Clark drove over a quarter of the WNBA's total economic activity in 2024 just released his projection for this year. He believes her total impact could exceed $1 billion. That's billion with a B. One player, one season, $1 billion in economic impact. When Sophie said people who don't think Caitlin is the face of the league are dumb, she wasn't being mean, she was being mathematically accurate. And now that Sophie has positioned herself as Caitlin's biggest defender, she's about to benefit from that economic reality in ways that could change her entire career trajectory. The endorsement opportunities that are already flowing her way are massive. Sophie already had the personality and media skills to be a star. She was moonlighting as a TV analyst during her playing days and was clearly comfortable on camera. But after her June defense of Caitlin and now her podcast launch, she's got something even more valuable. A clearly defined brand as Caitlin Clark's biggest supporter, backed by the passionate support of Caitlin's fan base, which vastly outnumbers any other players following in the WNBA. The deals are already rolling in. Home security company Ring signed her to play off her protector reputation. Arby's partnered with her for a cheeky Hot Girls Eat Arby's campaign. And with her new podcast platform On The Volume, she's positioned to reach an even wider audience while monetizing her unique position in the WNBA ecosystem. So where does this leave us? Sophie Cunningham's podcast launch a few days ago proved something that's going to reshape how players, media, and the league itself approach the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. Building on her earlier viral moment defending Caitlin physically on the court, she's now shown that there's massive upside, career-changing upside, for anyone brave enough to publicly embrace what everyone privately knows to be true. The response to Sophie's podcast comments wasn't just about one viral clip or one defensive statement. It was about validation.
No, I think it's awesome. I think it's so funny because she's like 22, 23 years old and the whole world is watching her.
Yeah.
Like it is a cult following. I'm not kidding.
No, it's wild.
Like, it is
the airport today.
insane.
It was like 22 everywhere.
For over a year, Caitlin Clark fans have been told they're not real basketball fans, that they only care about one player, that they don't understand the game. Sophie looked right into that criticism and said, actually, you're wrong. Caitlin Clark is exactly as important as her fans think she is, and anyone who disagrees is missing the obvious. That validation strengthened the bond between Sophie and millions of fans who already saw her as Caitlin's protector after her June incident. Sophie didn't become the second most popular player in the WNBA overnight from one podcast. She built that status over months of consistently having Caitlin's back, both physically and now verbally. The bigger story here isn't just about Sophie Cunningham becoming a star. It's about what her success is going to teach other players, media members, and league officials about the new reality of women's basketball. The old playbook of downplaying Caitlin Clark's impact or treating her fans like they're somehow less legitimate than traditional WNBA supporters. That playbook just got thrown in the trash. Sophie proved there's a blueprint now for players who want to grow their own brand and fan base. Embrace Caitlin Clark, defend her when she needs defending, and ride the wave instead of fighting against it. The fans are ready to support anyone who shows they understand what's really driving this league's success. And for the WNBA itself, Sophie's moment should be a wake-up call. Instead of constantly trying to spread credit around or minimize one player's impact, they should be looking at what just happened to Sophie and asking themselves, how do we create more of these moments? Because when players like Sophie step up and defend the league's biggest star, everybody wins. The fans get validation, the players get exposure, and the league gets the kind of authentic excitement that you can't manufacture with marketing campaigns. The most beautiful part of all this, Sophie wasn't trying to tear anyone down or create controversy for its own sake. She was simply defending her teammate and stating facts that should be completely uncontroversial. The fact that it created such a massive reaction tells you everything about how badly the WNBA needed someone to finally say these things out loud. Sophie Cunningham just showed the entire women's basketball world that there's gold in them hills for anyone smart enough to recognize that Caitlin Clark's success isn't a threat to be managed. It's an opportunity to be embraced. And judging by her exploding social media numbers and sold-out jersey sales, that lesson is being learned by millions of fans who finally found a second WNBA player worth following. If you're still here, drop a comment down below and let me know what you thought of Sophie's viral moment. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time when we break down how this is already changing the entire dynamic of the WNBA.